on record. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. Advocates of same-sex marriage are hailing President Obama's decision to publicly declare his support for marriage equality, becoming the first U.S. president to do so. Obama spoke out on the issue 3 days after NBC aired an interview with Vice President Joe Biden saying he was absolutely comfortable with same-sex marriage. Since taking office, Obama has backed civil unions for same-sex couples, but not marriage. In a moment, we'll be joined by the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright and longtime gay rights activist Tony Kushner. But first, we turn to the president's comments Wednesday.
I had hesitated on gay marriage, in part because I thought civil unions would be sufficient, that was something that would give people hospital visitation rights and other elements that we take for granted. And I was sensitive to the fact that for a lot of people, the word marriage was something that evokes very powerful traditions, religious beliefs, and so forth. But I have to tell you that over the course of several years, as I talk to friends and family and neighbors, when I think about members of my own staff who are in incredibly committed monogamous relationships, same-sex relationships, who are raising kids together. When I think about those soldiers or airmen or Marines or sailors who are out there fighting on my behalf and yet feel constrained, even now that Don't Ask, Don't Tell is gone, because they're not able to commit themselves in a marriage. At a certain point, I've just concluded that for me personally, it is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
President Obama speaking on ABC News on Wednesday. Obama's comments have been criticized by some proponents of same-sex marriage for essentially endorsing a states' rights approach to the issue. Richard Kim of The Nation magazine writes, quote, Obama essentially preserves the current status quo in which a handful of states recognize same-sex marriage and many states have constitutional bans against them. In an interview with Mother Jones magazine, an administration source said of Obama, quote, he has always said that it is a state issue, and he's not suggesting changing that. He did not support the North Carolina amendment, but he's not saying he will bring up a piece of federal legislation on gay marriage.
Joining us now is the acclaimed playwright, the screenwriter, the gay rights activist, Tony Kushner. He won a Pulitzer Prize for his landmark 1992 play, Angels in America. The play was set in New York in the midst of the 1980s when AIDS was devastating the gay community. His other plays include Homebody Kabul, Caroline or Change, and A Bright Room Called Day. He's currently working on a screenplay for a Steven Spielberg movie about Abraham Lincoln. Tony Kushner and his now husband, Mark Harris, were the first same-sex couple to be featured in the Vows column in the New York Times. The article was published in May of 2003 after they held a commitment ceremony. In 2008, they were legally married. Tony Kushner, welcome back to Democracy Now!
Thanks. Nice to be here.
How do you feel today after President Obama's announcement yesterday that he supports same-sex marriage?
I feel great. I watched it with Mark at home in the middle of the afternoon when ABC released it, and I was. I said to Mark, I felt the earth move. It's one of those moments that where you feel a corner being rounded and actual change, or the groundwork for change being prepared. It's been astonishing to watch over the years the slow but steady progress of marriage rights and in general of the enfranchisement of the LGBT community. It's at a pace that's faster than I honestly anticipated it would be, and it's incredibly moving to see the President of the United States, in my opinion, a great president, becoming the first president to say that same-sex couples should should have the legal right to marry, and I'm very proud of him, if that's not a silly thing to say. I think he's an extraordinary man, and I feel very, very excited and very moved. So.
And the choice, his choice to do it at this particular point, because the New York Times has a long article today about the battles within the administration, that basically this decision had been made, that he was going to make the announcement sometime before the Democratic convention to avoid being seen on the wrong side of a platform issue at the Democratic convention over marriage equality. Your sense of the timing that he chose at this particular time? I
mean, there's a lot that we won't probably ever know. I mean, I don't believe that it's the case that Vice President Biden's comments or Arne Duncan's comments sort of forced the president to make this. I have a fair degree of certainty that Biden made the comments having, been given permission at least to speak his mind on the subject. He's a wonderful guy and a great politician, and I suspect
that it was a trial balloon.
I don't know how these things
or an orchestrated rollout.
Not entirely orchestrated. It wasn't. I wouldn't call it a rollout, but it was something along those lines. I think that there's enough coherence within the administration to make it somewhat unlikely that Obama was blindsided by Biden sort of saying, off the cuff. There's no evidence that this caused a sort of a sort of crisis within the White House. I think that there were people who were saying before, making analogies between Lincoln and Obama on this issue, and that he allowed other people in the administration to say things that he felt politically he couldn't afford to take. I think there are a lot of everything I do now is sort of filtered through Abraham Lincoln, but he's been a very useful filter, I think, in thinking about the administration, the Obama administration. And I think that there's a very interesting parallel between the 1864 election that Lincoln faced and the election that Obama is now moving into. I don't think that same-sex marriage has the same prominence at all that emancipation had, obviously in the heart of the Civil War. But it's important for us to understand that there are issues that a progressive president may feel he has to articulate in a way that's less than satisfactory. If Obama had said yesterday, I'm still evolving, I would have been completely fine with that. I don't ask that he declare support for same-sex marriage before he goes up against Romney. You were just reporting what's going on in Greece now, which I think is something that really bears watching, because if this all results in the Greeks rejecting the euro, we could really be facing a summer and fall of, we probably will be facing a summer and fall of great economic tumult that's going to have an effect on America. And during times of economic tumult, it's hard on an incumbent. All the swing states are states that are especially economically pressed. The only thing that matters to me right now is that he get a second term and that we hopefully have a shot at getting the House back. Everything that anybody who's progressive wants is absolutely dependent on those things happening. So he doesn't have, I've always known there's no way on earth that Barack Obama doesn't believe in same-sex marriage. There's never been anything in his entire record as a politician, as a scholar, that indicates that it's conceivable that he doesn't get that this is a 14th Amendment issue, that it's a federal, not a state issue. What he needs to say to get elected, he got himself elected President of the United States, and I'm willing to concede.
Well, you mentioned Mitt Romney. I want to turn to Republican presidential candidate Romney, his response to President Obama's endorsement of same-sex marriage.
States are able to make decisions with regards to domestic partnership benefits, such as hospital visitation rights, benefits and so forth of various kinds could be determined state by state. But my view is that marriage itself is a relationship between a man and a woman, and that's my own preference. I know other people have differing views. This is a very tender and sensitive topic, as are many social issues. But I have the same view that I've had since running for office.
Your response to the reaction of Mitt Romney?
Well, I mean, you know, this guy is a nightmare. You know, he's been made to look reasonable by, you know, the presence with him on stage during the Republican primaries of certifiably insane people. And he's probably not an insane person, but he's absolutely, you know, the same kind of, you know, puppet for the plutocracy, or a member of the plutocracy that we've had before, and he'll bring in the same gang of criminals. And this sort of ersatz sensitivity to the, his sort of little, his condescending, acknowledgement that maybe we should have hospital visitation rights, it doesn't begin to touch. Since Mark and I have been legally married, we got married in Massachusetts. Our marriage is now legally recognized in New York State. We don't even know whether we're legally married in the few other states that have laws permitting or court decisions that support same-sex marriage. There are dozens of things, hundreds of things that we don't have that a heterosexual married couple has, including recognition on a federal level. It affects our tax burden. It affects our insurance situation. It costs us a great deal of money every year, and on down the line. And this idea that, if we're sort of given, I mean, Romney of course responded to Obama's comments by at first saying that he supported this constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriage, which he'd said before, and then coming out a few hours later saying that he doesn't support civil unions because that's too much of a threat to the institution of marriage. It's making the choice enormously clear, and again reinforcing my sense that Barack Obama is a supremely skilled politician who made this announcement because, in his opinion, it was not going to risk the election, and has, in fact, I think, almost immediately pushed Romney farther to the right. We just saw in Indiana that the Republican Party is still, very much enthralled to its lunatic fringe, and it would be a great help in terms of avoiding the catastrophe of a Romney presidency if the lunatic fringe keeps insisting that he swing farther and farther to the right and isn't quite the Etch-a-Sketch candidate that he was hoping he would be.
We're going to break, then come back to this discussion. Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Tony Kushner is our guest. This is Democracy Now! Back in a minute.